So, welcome back, everyone. We are here today with Jeff Rothstein, and I'd like to continue our conversation. Last time we talked about corporate and mission veterinary partners and just kind of business in veterinary medicine. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about just managing your life and veterinary medicine. So, here, let's continue the conversation with Dr. Jeff Rothstein.
Kind of a slightly different path. So I get a lot of vet students at my clinic, most of them from LMU, Lincoln Memorial University.
Yeah.
So I find myself trying to summarize usually all my mistakes. So they hopefully don't have to make the same mistakes, because that's what my mentors did for me. And I remember, yep, that's clear as day. Don't do that. There's a brick wall. Don't run into it. And I would just full force ahead, run right into the brick wall. Um, but what would you tell us, a vet student or a young vet, right around graduation, that maybe it would keep them out of some headache or some heartache, or at least warn them what they're walking into?
Sure. So I'm going to hit on strategic planning,
Yeah.
which many veterinary clinics don't do from a business aspect. But I think you got to think of yourself as your own individual business where you did relief and stuff. So I think it's the career planning and basically sitting down at least once a year and saying, here's, what I'm hoping to achieve. These are my goals.
Yeah.
And that's both personal, professional, and really keeping on track so you don't get into a rut. I mean, it's easy to
Mhm.
get into this 5 to 7 years and saying, hey, you know what, I'm a little tired of looking at, skin and ears and rears
Yeah.
and where am I going with it? Or, it used to be that ownership was, is something that was easy to slide into. I don't know if that's going to be a challenge now. So I think really being proactive about your career and what you want to do with it. Like you said, there's a lot of options that you can do with the degree. And so just staying ahead of the eight ball, I think is the big thing.
And I think that's helped me some personally, because some of it was planning, some of it may be dumb luck. I don't know. But it seems like for me, every 4 years, I made a change in the clinic so I didn't get bored. My first four was, running a practice, learning to practice. My second four, I really felt like I was mostly mobile at the time, so really honing in on practice. And then I'm building a practice. So I always felt like in this profession, I can change so I'm not bored and not just giving vaccines or, what have you. I mean, there's always some of that, but I've liked being able to kind of guide my course. And a lot of that I can do because I own my own practice, but I don't think people who don't own a practice won't have that ability either in our profession, if they think about it, like you said, and plan ahead a little bit. So,
Yeah. And I think keeping an eye on, so there's strategic planning, there's financial planning. I think looking at that aspect too is, somewhat significant because you can, uh, everything's easier when you start earlier, even in terms of career planning, but also the financial planning aspect. And so, just making sure that you're, whether it's being involved in the 401ks or just looking at, hey, um, you know, time goes by quickly and where am I going to be in 10 and 15 years? And, um, I want to be happy with the career choice. So you have to make it work for you.
yeah. Is there something that you've learned, I guess, in your career that coming out, or maybe that you've seen younger vets coming out and having a mindset or a conception of what vet medicine would be like, and you're like, that's not exactly what this is like? Is there something you could say, hey, watch out for this now because you're going to hit that along the line somewhere, that that's not quite what it was billed to be, or
Yeah, well, look, I mean, there's folks like yourself that, were in the trenches as a technician. I
Mhm.
think, um, look, in some ways, it's almost like a religion, and that's why I think a lot of us are really passionate about it. But you need to immerse yourself in obviously, there's a lot of different things, but let's talk about the clinic world. You need to immerse yourself in that and see if that wows you. And for some people, if you
Mhm.
didn't spend time ahead and you were just idealistic that, oh wow, this thing of being a veterinarian seems great, I'm gonna help save animals, da, da, da. You can run into you know trouble, especially you can be in a fast-paced environment. Maybe your income isn't what you would like it to be, and so I think just having your eyes wide open and again visiting different practices. And I actually uh, took a year, got accepted to Colorado State as an out-of-state student, but they were kind enough to let me move there for a year and get in-state tuition. But I took that time, worked in the veterinary school, worked in a
Yeah.
veterinary practice, and again, that's kind of where I got that. Wow, I'm gonna probably need to put some business ideas to this because I probably, financially, I don't think I'm gonna be happy if I'm just an everyday, associate veterinarian.
Yeah.
And so I think getting yourself out there to the continuing ed meetings and stuff, just to, get a broad spectrum of opportunities in the profession and see what aspect really turns you on. And I think there can be something for everybody. I went back for my 25th class reunion a couple of years ago, and I was surprised by people that had left the profession, still had part of it is still part of their DNA, but just didn't really make much of a go. And that's uh, I think really, a sad scenario when people put so much time and effort and passion into it. So again, I think, again, that strategic planning, diversifying, looking at, what things, will make it work well for you.
I'm still, growing in my veterinary life. And, right now I'm going through a few struggles with kind of along that, what I expected and what some of the reality is. I still take a lot of joy. And this morning I ran down and took out a bunch of feet that had been, or toes that had been crushed by hit by a car. And that's fun to me. Some of the other things get to me. Um, but when I first started my practice, I had some human doctors and some vets tell me, hey, if you do emergency work for the first 2 years of your practice, you're going to solidify the loyalty and a client base, and you're set. And I don't think they were lying to me, but to me, that was one of the biggest incorrect things I feel like I've experienced in my practice. I feel like I think transactional might be a little bit more where I see a lot of my clients at. Not that I don't have good clients, but a lot of them I feel like it's a very transactional thing. Do you think that's something, as you're a little bit wiser veterinarian than me, having a few more years, do you think that's something that, I'm going through and others might go through, or do you think that's maybe a change that we've seen in the world a little bit with veterinary medicine?
Well, two parts I will say is I do think, for a lot of veterinarians in that first couple of years out, that's what the skills you develop are going to
Yeah.
follow you. So I do encourage people, if you're not going into internship and stuff, bust your butt the next couple of years in a really busy practice or emergencies, because if you've got the medicine nailed down,
Mhm.
then like yourself, now you can focus on, running the business, because the other is second nature to you. So I think it's really important to be really competent in surgery, medicine, emergency stuff. And one, it takes the stress off of you when an emergency, it comes in, or a pseudo emergency, because you've seen it all.
I love watching my vet students, their eyes widen, and I'm like, just breathe deep, it'll be fine.
So, I mean, that's some of the stress for some folks, is going to a clinic in the first, few years, ownership wants to, hide in the surgery room because, they've seen enough clients. And so you don't get that experience. And so you never get comfortable with it. But it also impacts you from a production standpoint, because basically a little harder to, produce when you can't do some of these bigger cases. And so I think get your experience, and then you can do whatever you want after that. Makes a really big difference. From the transactional aspect, I don't know. I mean, some of it's teaching. To me, I mean, I really enjoy clients, and I have a philosophy in terms of if you take that so-called difficult client, if you start getting into the self-talk and stuff, it's really easy to see all the clients as difficult. But if you enjoy the different characters, and take it with a little bit of a grain of salt and exceed their expectations, I mean, there is a lot of joy in practice. I mean, I really have enjoyed it, and appreciate the clients, and there's a lot of humor and stuff in what we do, and some sadness. But I try, even though, again, yes, I'm on that that business spectrum, but I respect that some people have their either capabilities financially or priorities, and so I think we do the best that we can for folks, and just it's the old adage of offer the best medical care. It does get into a topic of, okay, wellness plans, budgetary plans, pet insurance, where do those fall in the future? And so I think there's a place for those things. And I think, for some people, it is easy to get stressed, by having to talk finances. But I think you got to have, some thick skin and be realistic. And the other thing for me is, personally, I like to work in an environment where another team member is delivering that treatment plan to the client. So, but I'm realistic, and I'm not, overly pushy. A lot of times it's like, hey, this would be the ideal way to do it, but
here's your options.
Right.
And I always, with clients, I'm like, here's all the options. I'm here to help you choose and make the best choice for you and your pet. And I think some vet students, at least when they're at the clinic, I'm like, remember, it's not always going to work out how you want, but if you can work with the client to get somewhere, that's going to be best for the patient and client and you. So no, thank you for those answers. So maybe a little different track here, or a lighter subject. I read your bio, and I saw you were a runner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's crazy. I tried doing some running for a while, and I felt very good when I did it. But the amount of dedication and everything. So what got you into running? Was that with vet school and the stress? Because that's when I ran the most, or jogged. I did not run. I jogged a little.
You bring me back to a memory I have at the SAVMA symposium in Madison, Wisconsin, and they had this, I don't know, Cowpoke 5K run. I still have the T-shirt from it, actually. And me and a buddy of mine, ran that, just part of the festivities at the thing. And we hadn't been running at all But that's a good part of youth. We had no problem doing it. And I guess we must have had enough. Maybe we didn't stay up late enough the night before, but I actually I really got into running more so. Moved to Ann Arbor in '94 after I graduated, and we were having our first child, and I was like, I want to keep up with the kids. And
Yeah.
so it's going on, gosh, it's close to 30 years that I've run most of the time, at least 3 to 5 times a week, if
Wow. Yeah.
not more. So I was 5K, 10K, half marathoner. My niece just talked me into doing my first marathon. It was her 30th birthday and my 60th. So we just did that. I qualified for Boston. So now I have to run like 3 or 4 before Boston in April
Oh
of
gosh, yeah.
24. So yeah, I think that and I do triathlon. I think, yeah, one of my slogans in vet school actually was sound body, sound mind. And so I think
Yeah.
it just, helps me stay grounded. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. And as long as I can, still do it, it'll be great. I've got Grandma's Marathon coming up. It's a pretty well-known marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. Going to run with my son, who's 20. He'll be 26 at the time. So his first marathon. So we're
Wow.
going to do that together. So yeah, it's just part of
Well,
my life.
good luck to all your runs and all your family running too. Sounds like you enjoy it though. Is there a favorite part of vet medicine that you have? Like, what's your I'm guessing you're going to say something with the business, but is there something you're just like, this is what I love?
I had a favorite dermatology professor in Colorado State, and so I've always enjoyed the dermatology
Sure, yeah.
aspect, maybe the best. But I like general practice. I mean, I like the clinic environment and the chaos and the clients, and I don't look at a lot of them are just characters to me, and
Yes.
and a lot of mostly people with pets, I think, and they're coming to the veterinary hospital. So I think everybody's got some goodness with them. And so I really enjoy that client interaction, 99% of the time. But yeah, so but I do like general practice, and I would say derm and the business side, that's was always been just kind of a little second nature. And so I like that aspect as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's fun, just all the little things you can find. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I think medicine is cool. And there's always something that I'm like, this is neat. My tech keeps saying that he's new to the profession. He's like, isn't this just neat? And I'm like, it takes me back because I've done 100 of whatever he thinks is neat. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of neat that we're able to do this and stuff. So
Oh, I was having lunch, gosh, a couple months ago with a few, I'd say, senior veterinary friends, in their upper 60s, early 70s. They're still practicing pretty much full time. And I was, and financially they're, in good scenarios. So I was like, wow, it's amazing that they continue to practice on a pretty darn regular basis.
yeah,
And I think for some, that passion is, and their calling for it is pretty amazing. And for them, I think, in questioning them, I think it just keeps them young, and some are
yeah,
also like, well, what else am I going to do? But I mean,
yeah,
so So I find plenty of other things to do besides it, but it is nice to see that some people love it that much that well into their 70s are still, practicing on a regular basis. And I don't know if it's a different work ethic or not, but it's
probably a mix of both, but
So we're going to take a short break. I'm very happy to have Dr. Jeff Rothstein with us. But on our next episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about the shortage in veterinary medicine. So come back to our next episode. I'm Dr. Nathan. Thanks for listening. I hope our discussions are valuable to you and aid in giving perspective. If you want to contact us, please reach out to theveterinarypodcast@gmail.com. You can find a complete list of the podcast episodes on SoundCloud. If you find this information helpful and want more content, please join our Patreon, patreon.com/theveterinarypodcast. And don't forget to follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/theveterinarypodcast. As always, thanks for listening, and I hope this information is helpful to you. If you do find it helpful, please like it, share it, so other people may find it helpful as well.